Perfect. Okay, welcome to the National University Esports League, then, guys. We're here for week 2 stages, which will decide our 4 final teams to play for all the championship points next week. The bottom 4 will also have to compete for the right to stay in the Super 8, so it's all to play for this week. I'm here with our 4 initial casters, Munch, Jackson, and Shadow. I'll say hello, guys.
Howdy.
Hello.
Beautiful, there you go, full of enthusiasm. Coming up, we have 6 games across the 2 streams. On stream 1, we have KVGS Kittens versus Manchester, Cardiff A versus University of Birmingham, and another derby between Manchester and Manchester Penguins again. On stream 2, we have Nottingham A versus Uni of Birmingham, KVGS versus Manchester Penguins, and Nottingham A versus Cardiff A. Last week, we saw Manchester dominate Group A with 3 wins and 0 losses, taking first position. Newcomers KVGS, representing Kent University, lost 1 game in their initial week, placing them at second. And while Manchester Penguins put up a great fight against Manchester, they secured just the 1 win against MMUG for third. Now, unfortunately, MMUG have forfeited, so we will not be seeing them play this week. What are our predictions, guys, and opinions on the teams for Group A?
Well, I think Manchester's got a pretty good shot. I mean, they are kind of the flagship team of the Newell, so.
Ooh, flagship team.
Yeah, well, definitely. You know, we've seen them absolutely dominate, and even the teams that came close just couldn't close it out against them.
I mean, it's obviously important, though, to remember that because of the new patch, if they've kind of decreased the amount they're practicing on the new patch, and KVGS Kittens, for example, have, you know, really worked at it, then they might have some strategies which Manchester just aren't expecting. So there's always that element to it, which you got to take into consideration.
Yeah, that's going to be massive. I mean, if you last week as well, the games, although Manchester won both of them, I mean, theory, obviously we casted them. There was 2 close games, especially that last game. They were really, really close at some point. I mean, we were talking like 30 minutes into the game, the goal had been pretty even. So it could still go either way, but with this last patch, it's almost a completely different game. So I can't wait to see how the teams have adjusted to that. And you know, we may see weak teams that are now really strong. We may see strong teams that are now really weak. So it's one of the things we have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. And last week it seemed pretty clear cut. You know, we didn't have any ties or anything. Moving on to Group B, it was much closer. Birmingham and Cardiff A both 2 wins last week, so drawn for that first position right now, while Swag Vicious and Nottingham A each took home 1 win. Unfortunately, again, we've had Swag Vicious drop out this week and forfeit their games due to work commitments. But it is going to still be a really intense group with just one game dividing the bottom place from the top place. So what are your opinions for Group B? What teams are you expecting to come forward and take that first position this week?
Anyone? No? Okay, I'll go. I'm all about the Nottingham A hype train, baby. I mean, I know them guys, they came up from Division. I'm really looking forward. They've got the captain back this week, who was missing some of the games last week. I think they're going to come out really strong, and I think that they're going to come out. They've already got the win. Obviously, all the teams now will have a win from the Swagfishers forfeiting. But I think that now that they've got together, they've got their full team there. I think that they'll come out, win the other 2, and I think this is going to be a really close division. Nottingham A will take it.
Okay, so some bias towards Nottingham A.
I agree it'll be close. I agree it'll be close, but I think Cardiff might have the better shot. That's my first impression.
Okay, I mean Cardiff A, I don't know if anyone caught Best of the Southwest yesterday. Cardiff A actually have been playing all through this Saturday, so they've had really good practice against some really good teams. I mean, is that going to influence it? Did any of you happen to catch Best of the Southwest yesterday?
I caught a brief amount of it, and I also watched Josh's interview as well. And I have to say, they looked good in my opinion. Obviously they didn't come first though, which is maybe a bit indicative of something, but we'll have to see.
Second is still strong. Come on.
Yeah.
Even though obviously I won't not going to pull it out, but I'm not going to bias any of the games. Cardiff did look very impressive, and their team play was very very good. They obviously look like a team that's practiced a lot and that know what they're doing. But again, this patch is going to change a lot of things. So
yeah, I mean we can't eliminate Nottingham, Birmingham, sorry, out of the runnings here. They took 2 wins last week, so they stand a pretty good chance. Have we got any back at Birmingham? Where do you think their strengths and weaknesses lie?
I think this division's wide open, to be honest, to any of the teams.
I mean, one other thing you gotta remember about Cardiff is because the best of the Southwest was played on the new patch, they've actually got tournament experience with it, not just, you know, ranked 5s or solo queue experience. So that's certainly something to take into consideration as well.
Yeah, definitely. So this week, and this is something that Munchables can probably touch on as well here, as this is the first time casting the Newell for him, so can't really commentate on the previous weeks. But this week we're playing on the brand new patch, and we've touched on it already, how it's going to change it up for everything. Now, what are your personal opinions on the patch, and then secondly, how do you think it's going to affect the team?
Pretty massive subject. My personal opinions on the patch. Number one, that new starting item is OP if you in a dual lane. When you
That's for sure.
yeah, the gold income is pretty insane. But overall, I quite like the new patch. I really like the vision changes. I like the new sort of ward wars that we're going to be having with the visible pink wards. And also I like the fact that the amount of wards you can place is now limited to 3, so it's not just the support's sole responsibility to be warding.
Yeah, definitely. As a support main, that's one of my favourites.
It'll be interesting to see if any of the teams in this tournament decide to adopt the 2-1-2 strategy we've seen kind of making its way into solo queue and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just about to touch on the fact that, you know, junglers has become, I was going to say bad words role, but definitely become probably the harder role to play.
Yeah.
And in turn, you know, some of these teams are really strong junglers. Manchester has a really strong Lee Sin player sitting in the jungle, and you know, how is that going to affect how these teams function if they're losing one of their strongest roles and they're trading over to support?
I think the thing is, it could go either way, because for example, if one of the teams has, you know, a relatively, not weak, but a relatively weak jungler, then it might be more beneficial for him to take, you know, the 2-1-2 thing in his stride, and it could be a situation where the weaker player in jungle is a better player to support.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's half of one, so, you know, it's one of them things. I mean, it can be rewarding and negative as well, this jungle. It rewards farming early on, but also it does reward camping lanes. We do see obviously that top being camped most often now with the 2-1-2, but it's going to open up a lot more paths. You're going to see either some junglers camping a lane really, really hard and leeching XP off of the CS and just camping on either that top or mid lane, or you're going to see games where the jungler won't do anything for 6 or 7 minutes. They'll just be farming up, and then all of a sudden they'll come out with a lot of items, make an impact then. But I think it's just going to be on their individual playstyle, which we'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, there's plenty to touch on here, but we really want to get into these games. So, just before we're going to split and go into our 2 separate streams, Stream 1 and Stream 2, just to reiterate the point that KVJS Kittens and Manchester are going to be streamed first on Stream 1, and Nottingham A and University of Birmingham playing on the Stream 2. They perhaps slightly delayed by 5 minutes or so, I think. I'd just like to point you towards some more information if you'd like it. If you'd like to get involved with the Super with the Newell, or find out more information on the Super 8, please visit www.thenewell.com, or alternatively our Facebook page, Facebook.com/The Newell UK. You can always also tweet us at The Newell. So that's all of the information. Anything else that you guys want to touch on before we go our separate ways?
No, not really. Just how this influences the games, and probably just have a discussion about stuff just before we get into the games. I know that we may have a slight delay on them, so we'll have lots to talk about then, but at the minute just excited to start them off.
Yeah, okay, good luck and have fun to all you teams out there. We'll wave goodbye to Shadow and to Jackson right now, who are going to drop down into the other stream.
Yep,
And
I'll speak to you guys later.
yeah,
Talk to you guys later.
for now.
User left your channel. User left your channel.
And I'll say hello.
Channel switched. User joined your channel.
Alright, so on stream 2 here we're going to have a slight delay waiting on Nottingham A to get in. So perhaps we should discuss some more of the new season changes and that kind of thing.
User joined your channel.
Yep. So obviously there's just gonna be...
You cut out a bit there.
Yeah. I think there's going to be about 10 or 15 minutes. Hopefully we should be starting by about 1:15 just to wait for all the players to be there. But until then, obviously, there's a big patch just hit. We've got a lot to talk about anyway. What sort of things, do you know any of the players or any of the ways of in this group B?
In particular, I think, aside from specific players, it would be interesting to talk about maybe the AP ratios on supports, actually. Because that's a pretty big topic, I think.
Definitely. I mean, I think they're going to see supports now that are going to be coming out that before you could play, but not to a certain extent. The big one that we've already seen in IEM, sorry, in some of the pro games is going to be that Annie. I feel that Annie was very strong before, but now that you actually have enough gold to build AP items on her, she's going to be a monster. She's going to be really good everywhere.
That is a really good point. And actually, in relation to the specific players and also the AP ratio stuff, it's not Group B, but in our second game that we're streaming with Manchester Penguins, their top player loves to play Janna top. So if he's getting, more out of his gold, in addition to like already being someone who likes to play that, that could maybe become, a kind of bigger deal.
Definitely. I mean, that's a good thing about this patch. It really widens up everything. That whole meta that we've had, it's still there, but right up gave us the opportunity to just broaden everything. We're going to see characters in positions that we never would have saw them before. You would have just called them trolls and reported them probably, but it's going to be legitimate picks now, and we're going to see some. There's still now, even at the pros won't know that are strong. That Janna top may just be one of them, but I'm really curious to see in bot lane that Annie. I think Nami will be coming out really strong, especially with the scaling on the slows and the CC now.
Yeah, that's
and with
definitely.
That Janna as well. Janna bot, she was strong before, but I think now she's going to be even more devastating as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good point. I mean, on the counterpoint to that, though, is that Leona's a pretty good counter to Annie, and she has also gotten buffed a little bit with the new items, so that might help even it out, even though Annie's going to be getting more AP and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Leona was always a champion that she's very all-in. Your only option on Leona is just to go all-in, obviously, and it works out very well when you get the kill. I also feel, while we're touching on Leona, I want to bring in Tarek to this because I feel he was very strong season 1 and 2. Obviously, he was picked. I think he had the highest pick ratio of any champion at some point in season 2. I played a lot of him myself. After the changes to his passive and after the changes as a whole to him, we haven't seen him as much, but now that you can just build full tank on him and start building the items, I feel he's going to be another one that's really going to come out in these lanes.
Yeah, I mean, I recall last few days I was watching some streams, and with the 2-1-2 strategy, a lot of people were running Tarek in one of the lanes and giving him a decent amount of gold, and he just became a beast, really tanky, decent damage because some of his damage skills with armor, so it's just... yeah, he was becoming pretty beastly. So that'll be one to look out for. On the subject of bot lane, though, another thing we could maybe talk about is the AD carries getting the gold generation item as a first item. I think that's actually pretty interesting. It sort of takes the focus off of the aggressive AD carries a little bit. Because obviously, if you're buying that kind of tanky starting item, it's harder to kill the person.
Yeah, my first game in this new patch, actually, I main support and I jumped in and I was with an Ashe and she did start that Targons as well as me, so we had that dual Targons at first. I wasn't too sure about it, but you get a lot of gold. It stops the aggressiveness early on, as you've said, but you know, after like 10-15 minutes, you are building up a lot of gold. It helps you
I
support
think,
get more gold.
yeah, as a specific number, I recall seeing it was around 20 minutes in game, someone had shared 1,800 gold.
Yeah,
So that's a
yeah.
pretty huge amount of money, especially to be given to your AD carry or something.
Exactly. I mean, it even argues, you know, if you were aggressive, that 2k gold, you might not even get that from kills from being super aggressive. So it's something that we're gonna see. I don't know if we will see a lot of teams roll with it because I think teams are still adjusting. But I'm really curious to see the builds that they do go.
I
But
think,
I can't see anyone building anything other than Targons and most of the champions because
Yeah.
of how good it is.
I think if the teams have been doing their research, watching, you know, the very professional players in solo queue and all that, I think it's very likely we're going to see Targons every game on most people, to be honest. It's kind of the new, whatchamacallit, Heart of Gold. It's the new Heart of
Oh.
Gold.
Jeez, why did you have to bring that up? There's still a gap there that hasn't filled, but yeah, no, definitely, it's very, very strong. I mean, even completed, when you get four stacks on it, it's just ridiculous money. You can walk around the map CSing and you're getting so much gold.
Yeah, definitely. So is there anything else that you think is a big deal?
Mainly as well this jungle. Obviously we've talked about the bot lane, the support, but I think this jungle now is going to be really, really very different. I mean, we're going to see some people that are either going to go, as I said, I think that you'll either get people camp lanes really hard. You'll have people that are almost like a 2-1-2, but rather than stay in lane, you know, they'll be roaming a bit, they'll be killing jungle camps, they'll be going back to top, maybe down to mid. Or we'll see games where you won't see the jungler for the first 7 minutes or so, they'll just be farming up.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about it really. I haven't played too many games as jungle, but I don't know if I think it's positive or negative, and I think that it's an individual thing. We'll see some people take it very differently, so I'm curious to see how each team's jungler reacts to that and what sort of changes they make to their play to
I
fit the
mean,
meta and what they'll do.
Something you definitely got to consider is because the you get less experience from the camps, so early ganking junglers are nerfed at least a little bit due to that in the first place. But also because there's the extra camp, and did they change the gold income from the creeps? I think they increased it a little bit, right?
Yes, all the creeps now scale the highest level. So if you're behind, sorry, as a jungler, you get more experience from the camps, which helps you catch up a lot more. So that's going to be a lot better for junglers that do try and gank and don't get the ganks. And you know, usually if you're a ganking jungler, you don't get the kills, you're behind.
Yeah.
But they've now got a chance to catch up and get back in the game with the XP scaling.
I think it'll be interesting to see the farming junglers, you know, like your Yi, Udyr kind of farms a lot, those kind of people, see how much of an impact the changes have made to their gold income and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a few more. Obviously, the jungle now is open to a lot of champions. I've seen Nautilus hybrid jungler support as top lane now.
Oh, wow.
I've seen a lot of things. I've even seen an Akali jungle that actually went like 8-2.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point to mention, is that with the 2-1-2 thing, there's no super important reason why the second support couldn't take smite, spend a bit of time in the jungle, roam around a little bit. It's not quite the roaming meta we briefly saw in like Season 1, but it has elements of that in it, for sure.
Oh, definitely. The other popular one is Nunu, having a Nunu top that's supporting obviously with his blood boil, but he doesn't even need to take smite because of his consume.
Yeah, and even if he does take the smite just for the Baron control, it means that he can pop into the jungle really quickly and instantly obliterate a camp and get back to lane, so he doesn't even have to leave his AD carry in the top lane for that long.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what will happen in the banning phase though because of this. Not just this, but the whole patch. So I think normally, you know, the bans that you go around mid and AD carry and stuff, I think that people will be focusing these champions that are now coming out as really strong. I expect there to be a few Annie bans or at least pickups in most games. Possibly even these support junglers that we'll see, and I think that we'll see how this changes because of the patch. I think a lot of teams will be more fearful of these things.
I think it's kind of a specific thing, but if you do see the 2-1-2 lane with the 280 carries, it'd be interesting to see if maybe the opponent can react to it and pick like a Malphite or something, you know, just rush loads of armor, and you know, we haven't had a chance to see how the pros are countering that strategy yet, and it'll be interesting to see if some of these teams have thought up their own ways of dealing with it.
That's why I'm looking forward to this so much. I mean, even me as a viewer, these tournaments are so based on how the pros play. You know, picks are copied from the pros, team comps copied on from the pros. The fact that this patch has just come out and there hasn't been a lot of major tournaments yet means that these teams really can try their own thing.
Yeah,
I'm really excited.
I'm very excited as well. I mean, in some senses, I mean, these players are pretty good. So it could potentially indicate where the pro scene is going, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of them, you know, nobody knows yet. Maybe in a few weeks we'll know, but at the minute, even the pros are figuring it out, so there is literally anything that could happen in these games, any picks. Another pick that I'm curious to be seeing a lot, because he's been quite strong in the Korean scene and in the pro scene lately, is Olaf. Especially now we've got a brilliant jungler.
Yeah.
See a lot more of Olaf today.
That's a good point as well. I know Odd One was raving about Olaf being really, really good right now, and I think another jungler that he pointed out being pretty good was Wukong. He said Wukong was actually pretty strong after the changes, so those are two kind of little seen champions in season, the last season, that we might see now. So
Yeah, I've just got word from Nottingham's captain that their mid laner is in, so you will be going to the game soon.
excellent. Is James here?
I am indeed.
Excellent.
Hello, James, you've been quite quiet, haven't you?
I have. Well, I've been popping around the different channels, doing different things, and I didn't want to interrupt you mid-flow.
Oh, we could always use some more contributions. What do you think about some of these matters whilst we're still waiting for the last few players to get
Pretty
in?
much everything you've said is completely what I thought, especially involving the new jungle is just nails, and that the friggin' gold items are just insane. And I've not won a game on the new patch yet. It's really depressing.
I have only played one or two one for all. So.
I played 3 games, and they depressed me so much because I had no idea what I was doing because I made support, and I just like, what do I do with wards now, or do I get the trinkets? And I'm so confused.
What do you guys think with junglers getting the Targon shield as well? Because I saw a few games pros were playing where the junglers would pick them up, come and tax the lane when they had charges, and then pop back because they were actually still sharing more money and they could do it everywhere. But I'm not sure if it's really worth it, to be honest.
It's pretty gimmicky because to actually get effect of it, you do need to be camping the lanes. You need to be going to that top or mid a lot to gank and stuff, you know. And it's if the gank doesn't pay off, you can still get the charges and help. If the gank does, you get more gold. But it stops you camping the jungles. It stops you being able to do as much because obviously for the passives to use, for the charges to be used, you need range of someone. So I don't personally like it a lot, but I think it could work especially in a in a fives team that has the strategy thought out beforehand. I think it could be effective, but
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of it.
You know, a champion I just thought of, which I'm kind of excited to see if it gets played like in the 2v1 or whatever, is Karma. Because Karma was seeing a decent amount of play towards like the middle end of Season 3, and with the with the changes to the items so they're a bit more efficient and stuff, and the gold that she's getting, it might be possible to see her in the sort of roaming / top lane support role.
Yeah, definitely. Karma's really strong at the moment. To be honest, she's always been quite strong, but we haven't seen a lot of players go to her just because of stuff that's happened in the past and that.
Yeah, I mean, also you got to consider. I mean, she's a fairly difficult champion to play at the professional level, so there's that.
Definitely, but she is very, very strong. I think Nidalee is another one that is going to flourish, especially because of not just because of this patch, but the last patch, Assassin mids took a big nerf, and we saw Gragas and we've seen Nidalee and other AP mids and burst champions now come out really strong to counter that Assassin mid. However, Gragas has had them nerfed this last patch, so I'm not too sure if we'll be seeing a lot of Gragas. I think we still will be seeing a lot of him. He'll be contested, but I'm not too sure how he'll fare
I think
in comparison to the last patch.
Because Orianna's still popular, Gragas will be popular due to that, because he's a decent character to run against her. So there's always going to be at least some scenarios where you're going to see Gragas pickups, but whether or not people first pick him is a good question. I mean, his body slam change was kind of interesting. If you actually land it, the cooldown's a bit shorter now than it was before, so there's that to consider.
Definitely. I think we'll just have to wait and see again. So we shouldn't be too far off getting into these. Have you guys got into the game yet?
We're nearly in. I just need to drop down into spectate once this guy moves, and we should be moving into it very soon.
Yes, apparently the captain of Nottingham is having a bit of difficulty. Yeah, oh no, he's just joined into the game now.
Awesome.
So,
We just need one more person to get in, and then we'll be starting the
this
pick
is
and ban
always
phase.
the way with the league.
I mean, last 2 seasons I was a player, and getting the games ready was always a struggle.
Yeah, organisation isn't the strongest of some of these players, but it's one of
They
them.
make up for it with raw talent. That's the
It's
thing.
an exciting, great game.
Even if you have to have a bit of a delay, the games are going to be good, right? That's what matters.
Of course. Obviously, the games that we've got tonight, Nottingham in this first game, against Birmingham, yes?
Yes, it's Nottingham A
against
versus Birmingham. 2
Yep.
diamonds and 3 platinums versus 3 diamonds and 2 platinums.
Yeah, all very, very good players in these teams here. Obviously, Division 2 is completely up for grabs at the moment. Swagfishers have forfeited, which at the moment leaves the standings on Nottingham A with 2 wins and Birmingham and Cardiff on 3. So it's very, very close division. Game 2 is going to be Cardiff against Birmingham, and Game 3 will be Nottingham against Cardiff. I will be casting the second and third game. I'm going to jump out shortly when this game starts to let you guys, do your thing on this game. But going into this, have you guys got any predictions for this first game?
Oh, it's going to be a toss-up, but I think Nottingham may have proven themselves to be a little bit better.
Nottingham A.
But
However,
well,
I do love Birmingham just for Blue Bear. Raise your Blue Bears.
I think it's going to be very close, but I'm only somewhat leaning towards Nottingham, so it should be a good game.
Yeah, we'll have to point out that Nottingham didn't lose a single game in the October tournament. Not a single one.
In the October tournament, yes, but they did go 1-2 last week. However, one of their games was with a sub. So they did come into this not necessarily as the favourite, going 1-2 from last week. The other teams obviously were going 2-1. However, they've got their team all back. They haven't got any subs this week, so we may see a complete change there.
We're quickly remaking the game again, so if you want to
It
stick
seems
around for a
like
bit longer.
the numbers is constantly getting kicked regardless of what's happening. Which is bizarre. Oh, Riot had fixed all this. Riot, please!
That's fine. So we're only a few minutes off now, guys. Just starting this game again. All the players are getting straight into there, and then we will be bringing you the games. So one thing I'm curious to see with these changes, obviously a lot of AD carries and a lot of people will be starting with that Targons possibly, and with these more defensive items, do you think that means we're less likely to see any level 1 fights?
I definitely think that we'll see less level 1 fights as people go for the gold item. Definitely, people don't want to. If you go gold item and someone else goes to Dorans, you're not going to win that level 1 fight unless you get quite lucky. In my opinion,
I think it's going to be more of a risk/reward situation where if the team is ballsy enough to do it, because you can't place the wards straight away from your trinkets, there's room for you to maneuver into a position where they won't expect you. And if you make the decision to go for the Dorans or whatever, then it's a gambit, it might pay off. And so some of the more aggressive teams or, some of the more ballsy teams certainly might go for that.
That's the other thing to mention, the trinkets. The trinkets, free, obviously as soon as you get into game they are completely free for you to choose one and they all grant vision. That is surely going to make level 1s a lot harder because these teams are going to have a lot more vision. The free ward or to show areas just to check them so you don't have to face check. And I think from that as well we'll see a lot safer starts. It's going to be a lot harder for a team to sneak around and get the surprise element when they've got so much ways to have the vision on the map.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting. I think level 1 is actually one of the things I'm most excited to see from these players and also the pros in future tournaments because, as I said, I think there's a lot of room for a gambit there.
Yeah, definitely. So, other than that, I'm just thinking now. Do you think, in terms of the compositions, that we'll have more focus on still the 5v5s now that we've got the support and the jungler being more, being able to get these items more? Do you still think people still go for these pick comps and that? Because the fact that support can now get a full build, we do see people, as we've talked about before, getting these full AP champions or full tanks with the Taric and Leonas, and they can genuinely 1v1 AD carries at some point in the game if they're getting more gold and that. Impact the team fights a lot more in terms of focus and that.
I think supports, I mean, obviously one of the places they shine the most is in a full 5-on-5 fight where they can disrupt as many people as possible. You know, if Janna hits her ulti on a big number of people, that's a huge deal. So there's a decent chance that 5v5 will be more influenced by the supports. So a team that's running the 2-1-2 strategy, for example, and has 2 supports, you would assume would maybe be better in the 5v5, so they would try and... the other team might try and avoid those scenarios and go with the pick comp.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing to mention as well with that vision is you've now got the scaling with the objectives, with the dragon, with the baron as well. So late game, this dragon is, before it didn't make a big difference, but this dragon now scales later in the game. You get a lot more gold for it. And with these vision items added with the trinkets, surely we're going to see a lot more wars over the vision control and over the objectives.
I think that's definitely a possibility, but you also got to remember that maybe the jungler will go the scanning item, for example. So it's going to like, some people are going to have more wards, some people might actually have less.
Possibly, yes, but I mean, with this pink ward change as well, you've got the scan, but also this pink ward's now being visible all the time. It's going to force players to try and protect their vision.
I tell you what I'm looking forward to is that one play where someone plays a pink and sets up a trap using it. I'm calling that happening at least once sometime soon.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, how far off are you guys to getting in the game right now?
There is one player who has had to restart his laptop for unbeknownst reasons. Apparently, the client is just restarting it. So that should be relatively soon, TM.
Right, okay, so still not too long, hopefully, before we do jump into this game. So there is a straw poll in the Twitch chat, guys, if you guys want to vote, make your predictions for this first game. Just to see, at the moment, 7 votes for Nottingham and 0 for Birmingham. So.
Oh dear. Maybe some biased Nottingham University members in the chat or something.
I think 3 or 4 of their players are probably in the chat. So we'll have to give them a little bit of leeway on that vote. Still good to know.
I want to vote. Repost.
Oh, I see now I've refreshed it, there's 1 vote for Birmingham, so, you know,
There we go.
someone's supporting them.
As you said, I mean, they're still a very strong team. Nottingham seem to have a lot of fans. Obviously, I know some of the guys in there. I know the guys from a lot of the uni teams, so I know some of the guys from Nottingham. But for some reason, they do seem to be quite a fan favourite. And even though they haven't been the strongest last week, even with the other casters, when we had the first discussion with all 6 of us, people still feel they're going to do well. They came up from Division 2 last year. I'm sorry, in the last tournament. And they weren't in the Super 8. They dominated Division 2, came into the Super 8, and they did well at first. Obviously, they struggled a little bit last week, but people still have that faith in them.
Yeah. I think it's probably partially relating to the fact that Nottingham went 2-0 in their group last week, right?
No, they went 1 and 2 last week.
Oh, 1 and 2.
Yes, and they're still favourite against Birmingham and Cardiff. Both went 2 and 1.
I was thinking it was the other way around, right? Well, that's interesting then. People are going against the statistics.
Exactly. We do also have to say that Cardiff, there was another tournament, Best of the Southwest, that Cardiff finished 2nd in. So, as we said before, if you weren't there, they have had practice in the tournament environment with this patch, and they are looking very strong. So certainly all of these teams, there's nobody here that's a clear winner. This is going to be very, very close.
It will, and we're about ready to start. So we'll...
Great, so